Hey folks, Cedrick here at CedrickCourtois.com. I have a quick, simple little tutorial for you guys today that may improve and speed up your mix workflow if you mix in the box. If you're lucky enough to work in an all analog environment, checking the behavior of a compressor, for instance, is usually a simple matter of turning around, glance at the VU on it, turn around the other way, making sure your vocal chain is doing what it needs to do, and then glance at the VU on the console, making sure everything's good. Now, if you do this in the box, unless you have a dozen monitors around you where you can display everything, it's usually a matter of quite a few clicks to make that happen. For instance, if I wanted to check my kick chain, okay, I'll have to click on all the plugins involved in that chain. So shift click on the other plugin, which might probably going to, there you go, hide the first one, so I have to rearrange it. Do this for all the plugins that are involved in my kick chain. Now, not that it's a huge deal, but once I'm done with it, I have to click them off. If I want to check my snare now, for instance, well, I have to do the same thing. I have to click on this. This isn't the snare actually, but whatever I have on my snare today, I have to click on this. And then if I want to go back to my kick, I have to do it all over again. So this isn't necessarily a very efficient workflow. Now, by using the features on window configurations in Pro Tools, as well as memory locations, and sometimes even a combination of both, you can greatly improve that workflow and speed it up. So I'm going to show you a couple examples of how I like to display my session, again, to work efficiently, and then you can take it from there and make your own template. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into it. Now, to sort of briefly illustrate what the capabilities of window configurations are, let me give you an example. Right now I have my mix window displayed, and I have a couple of other windows like my transport, my color palette. I have my system usage, which is going a little bit crazy right now because my screen capture software is a little bit of a processor hog. And then I have memory location here and window configuration. Now, if I wanted to switch to my edit window, which by the way, I typically work with two different screens, which you can't see here because that software only captures one screen at a time, but concept will be the same. If I wanted to switch to my edit window, then I find that all these windows are in the way, so I might want to move them around, and if I switch back, I have to move them around again. So I can actually save that particular window layout and then recall it very quickly. So with my window configuration up, which you can find here in the window menu under configurations, shortcut option Command J. Now I can save this as a new configuration. Make sure it includes the window layout feature. I'm going to call this mix, for instance, because that's my mix layout. Okay. Then I'm going to switch to my edit window maybe, and I don't want this stuff to be in the way, so maybe I'll move this around a little bit. Move this here. Maybe I have this on the top right here. And then maybe I don't want my memory location right, so I'm going to get rid of them. Okay, now I can save this here as yet another window layout. So from the submenu of that little window right here, I can go to new configuration. Same thing again. I'm going to call this edit. Okay, and I can quickly recall my mix settings, for instance. Here it is. Now my memory location popped back up, and the location of all the other windows very quickly display the way I like it. So you can, by simply clicking back and forth, have a very quick changeover between mix and edit, for instance. Okay. Now, since I'm working on a mix workflow here, I'll stay on that one. So typically, the first thing I like to do now, of course, keep in mind that if you include this in your template, you don't have to do this every time. So the first thing I like to do is, if I'm working on just my drums or maybe just drum and bass, I like to just display those tracks. And then if I work on the guitar, I don't want to see my drums anymore and just see the guitars, etc., etc. So for that, I'm actually going to use a feature on the memory locations. So for instance, if I wanted to just see my drums right now, then I'm going to make sure those, of course, are displayed, and then I'm going to quickly not get rid, but just hide the rest of the tracks. So I'm going to select everything else, okay, and just simply hide them, okay. So now I simply have my drums and bass displayed. I can save this as part of a memory location. Click enter. I'll create a new memory location. Don't make it as a marker or selection. Click none. Okay, you can name it, for instance, in this case, drums, of course. Make sure that you include the track show and hide feature, as well as, in this case, my mix window configuration, since we're mixing. Okay, click OK. All right, and then I'm going to move on to the next tracks, you know. So I'm going to get rid of my drums, okay, hide those. Remember, when you hide the tracks, they're still active, so you'll still hear them. It's just a simple display thing. Then I'm going to go to my guitars, okay, and I'm going to do the same thing with my guitars. I'm going to create a new marker right here, or rather a new memory location. Call that guitars. Include the same features. Click OK. Now I get a second one. I can switch back and forth between my drums. So here are the shortcuts, by the way, for the memory location. Period, the number of the memory location, and then period again. So if I want to go back to my drums, I'm going to do period, 1, period, and my drums are getting displayed again. If I'm going to go back to my guitars, I'll do the same thing with 2, and then we're going to do the same thing for every single elements, vocals, synth, whatever else I have in this particular session. Okay, so let's finish this up real quick. Now I've got my vocals up right here, leads, doubles, effects, chains, etc., background vocals. So I'm going to save this as maybe my second to last. Maybe I'll do one for my sub mixes. So this one is vocal. Let me hide all these guys right here. You could use, of course, some of the group features also in Pro Tools to just quickly display those tracks. I just don't know that I have the right groups for this particular tutorial, so I'll just do it sort of manually. And let's save this as a mix bus, for instance. Okay, so now as you can see, if you look at my memory location window, I have essentially 5 sort of groups where I can quickly recall the display of just certain tracks. Now we can go a step further, because let's say I'm, of course, now working on my drums and I want to specifically work on my kick. Well, I may want to take a look at all the different plugins I use for that kick. So just like I did in the little intro earlier, I have to now display all my different plugins that have to do with my kick. Okay, so I've got a little SSL channel strip right here into Transcend Designer, looks like, for this particular tune right here, and then 1176, and there we go. So this looks to be my kick chain. Okay, well, I can actually, just like I did earlier between the edit and mix window, I can actually save this as a window layout. So now I'm going to go back to my window configurations, save a new one. This one will be we'll call this kick, for instance. Okay, make sure to save this as a window layout. Click OK. All right, click all those off. Move on to the snare, for instance. Okay, so here's what I'm using on the snare here with it looks like a trigger sample that goes into it looks like another EQ right here. So if this is my snare chain, again, I can save this as a new window configuration. Okay, call this one snare. Okay, and obviously you get the point. I'm not gonna do this for a whole hour, but basically now if I want to go back to my kick, I can simply recall that particular window configuration with all my plugins displayed very quickly. Okay, the shortcuts, by the way, for the window configurations are period, the number of the configuration, and then the little star at the top, asterisk, I don't know how you call that. So if I wanted to go back to my snare, for instance, period 4 star, and there's my snare setup. So you can do this for obviously as many configurations as you need, for any elements of your mix as you need. But I find this to be a very efficient workflow, especially when I need to look at the behaviors of especially compressors. You know, being able to look at the VUs and see even if you're not crushing them, unless that's what you're looking for, of course. Okay, that's it. I told you guys it was going to be a short, simple, and quick one. So I hope this this will help you in your mixing ventures. Thanks for watching, and then we'll see you next time. See ya.